When we're entering the job market, we're encouraged to put our best foot forward, to present ourselves as best as we can, but sometimes it can be tempting to fudge the details or to hide some things which perhaps would not put us in a good light. There's a balance between curating our story in a positive way and, lying, basically, in order to trick somebody into giving you a job. How to get that balance right? Well, joining us on the program now, Tom O'Neill from cv.co.nz. Kia ora, good morning.
Kia ora, my friend. Lovely to be back on the show.
There is a fine line between putting your best foot forward and porkies sometimes, that we say, I won't mention that because then I might not get the job, or, I'll just describe it in a euphemistic kind of way which makes me look better than I am. How do you get that right? Because we don't want to sabotage our chances of getting a job. We perhaps don't want to be too blunt with the truth, but we want to keep our integrity intact.
Yeah, fantastic question. I think the first thing we've got to understand, it's a sales process.
Yep.
Right. So I'm selling Tom to the role of HR manager or diesel mechanic or whatever it is. So I need to be prepared to talk about the really good bits of Tom. That can help that employer. So that's really the first thing we need to be conscious of. And so many people don't even get to that point, So we've got to really go in with a positive focus. However, there will be things that necessarily haven't gone right, that maybe aren't quite at the mark or whatever they are. So it's really, really important just to be honest and open with the key things you need to share. However, we've got to remember, not everything we need to share.
Exactly. If don't ask, don't tell in some ways. But I suppose if you're looking for a job, that is also evidence that perhaps everything wasn't going swimmingly in your last job. That's just the reality of it. I suppose getting the balance right in terms of being effective in our job hunting techniques whilst still maintaining integrity.
Look, that's the thing. It's about just keeping that integrity at the forefront. People rush out to go and tell the employer all the negatives they have because they feel like they have to purge it from their system because they want to be just totally honest about everything.
Yeah.
We've got to understand this process is a sales process. It's not a disclaimer. I'm not going out there and telling everyone, look, these are my weaknesses and these are my massive faults.
Yeah.
By the way, here's a couple of things I'm good at.
Yep.
Can I have the job, please? So we need to understand that it's that balance. But we also need to remember in business, in employment, the only real tangible thing we have with the employer is trust.
Yeah.
And if any way that trust is breached or broken, it just really crumbles that foundation between, the employer and the candidate. Employer and the staff member, but particularly in the job hunt. If I've got, 7 people that are all really good and I've got, Jim who's even better, really like Jim. And so Jim's my choice. Suddenly, if I have a conversation with Jim and something comes out that doesn't quite make him do a bit of research and suddenly find he's told me a porky, even though he may still be the best candidate, that breach of trust has now happened.
Yeah.
And so now he's going to drop down, below the other 7 people that could also do the job. And so when we let a breach of trust happen, it's almost impossible to get that back.
When it comes, we're kind of in this cycle and season within the job market at the moment where we've got a lot more candidates for jobs than there are positions available. And there may be something we've talked about in previous weeks. You may need to apply for quite a few jobs before you get the one that you end up with. Is there, I suppose, a strategy for this? It's almost like scattershot of, look, let's get the CV out as many places as possible. Let's apply for anything that moves in that regard. Should we go that wide with this? Or should we be a little bit more strategic and say, look, I'm only going to apply for jobs which I'd absolutely love and would be my best possible job ever. How wide or how narrow do we focus in the season we're in, Tom?
Yeah, cool. I mean, I always find it funny. Our whole future career, is, defined by someone putting an ad in on Seek.
Yeah.
Obviously as Christians, we believe there's, a plan,
Yeah.
God's plan in that and so on. But really, which is awesome. But at the same time, Jim, HR person at, ABC Tires put an ad in yesterday. Just so happened we were applying yesterday, and if we'd applied 2 weeks later or a week earlier, we'd never seen the job.
Yeah.
We then get the job with Jim's Tires, and then next thing you know, we're working with them for 20 years. Again, it can be quite sort of hit and miss, and these choices we're making define our lives. My son right now is just graduated as a commercial pilot, so he's sending CVs out all around Australia, New Zealand, Vanuatu, Fiji, just to try and, break into the market. And it's fascinating because, again, he may end up, moving to Vanuatu and, meeting a lovely woman and raising Vanuatuan children, all because someone put an ad in on, a position. So it's quite fascinating when we think about it. So really, it depends to some degree on our urgency. So if you're in if you're in a job that you're keen to move, but it's not panicky, you got a bit of funds built up, you can now cherry pick, right? Because you've got that security. You can think, okay, what is the perfect ideal role I'd like to apply for? And then be very strategic there. If, on the other hand, you've been made redundant, you're sitting there, you've got limited funds, and the clock is super ticking, the mortgage is very prevalent in your mind, oh man, it's about getting out everywhere. So to some degree, it really depends on urgency. But certainly for those people that don't have the funds to have an extended holiday or that sort of stuff, they need to get out there. And bear in mind, it's October now. Things start petering off November, and then, of course, December, January, it's pretty quiet. So if I was in that position, I'd be pulling finger and getting stuck in today.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's going to be a long Christmas holiday starting immediately. Some wonderful wisdom and advice on this one. Tom, thank you so much for the work that you do. Of course, for people to find out more about how to be effective in the job market, cv.co.nz is the place to go. Tom, thanks for what you do. Thanks for joining us.
God bless, mate. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.